Happy Wednesday. I know my schedule's been off. I'm going to give it a few seconds. Doesn't always start right away. So hopefully get a few more seconds and nobody jumps on because, occasionally someone might pop on, but normally this is just to record for later, and it's the easiest way that I have figured out to get them recorded and uploaded into YouTube. So anyway, welcome. I'm Lanita Ellis, the Scrappy Grandma, and this is our Torah Portion reading number 18. I missed last week's 17 because I was at a doctor's appointment, and then we rapidly went into preparation to move our daughter's family, our son-in-law daughter and the 4 grandbabies, and we did that for the last week. And that's why I'm late getting to this, because we were moving animals on Monday when I would normally be recording. So welcome. Let's see here. This week is week 18 in our Torah Portion reading, and it is Mishpatim, which means judgments. And before we get started, I am going to pray. Father Yah, thank you. Thank you for your goodness. Thank you for your favor. Thank you for being so involved in every aspect of our life, that you teach us and lead us and guide us and direct us if we only look to you. Do what your word says. Acknowledge you in everything we do. Father, help us to be mindful and not grumble and complain and get frustrated over the things that happen, knowing that they're all ordained by you. If we are living in covenant with you, then whatever happens to us is ordained for our good. So help us to live a life of thanksgiving and to be thankful and joyful and excited about the adventure that you have us on and the journey that we're on, and not be like the Israelites where we're grumbling and complaining and seeing the lack instead of seeing your gracious goodness to us. Thank you so much for showering us with blessings that we don't even see and acknowledge half the time. You are such an amazing provider. Father, open our eyes to the truths you'd like us to receive during this reading. Show us what you want in your word today. Anoint it. Let it bring you glory and teach us how to best live in covenant with you. Praise you, my King, in Yeshua's holy name. Amen. All right. So like I said, we have been super busy moving our daughter's family, and it is a blessing beyond my wildest imagination. We knew that she had to move, and our prayer was that she would move to the best place for her, not her, but for the whole family, wherever Yah would, wherever he wanted her, for the best for them. But if it could be closer to us, that would be a bonus. And she had been living for the past 10 years, just over an hour's drive one way from us. And they are very close now. This grandma's heart is like over the moon happy. It's just so exciting. I'm just so excited of what will come of it. So that's what I've been doing. Busy, crazy. And then the doctor's appointment was, they found a skin cancer and they want to remove it. And I'm in discussions with them on that, and lots of prayer and seeing about any kind of alternative treatment. So anyway, that was where I was last Monday. And so if you've watched any of my old videos of the old Torah Portion, there was a point where I had a big old sore here, and they biopsied and it came back cancerous. And so they want to cut more of it out. So we'll see. Still in prayer. So anyway, all right. So Mishpatim means judgment. And the Torah portion is, sorry, I'm not organized enough. Let's see. So it's Exodus 21:1 through 24:18. 2 Kings for the Haftorah, the prophets. And if you don't know the story about the Haftorah, it's so fascinating. When the Israelites were in captivity by Greece, it was not allowed for them to read their Torah, or to I think Saturday they couldn't teach the Torah, and I'm pretty sure they couldn't teach the Torah. They couldn't read the Torah, and they couldn't do their Sabbath. I think, I forget all the different couldn'ts, but so what they decided to do instead was they read out of the prophets and the books of wisdom, and they would teach the same lessons that the actual Torah taught. And so that they would be stories that would remind them, and that's how they passed down the Torah, is through the Haftorah. So the Haftorah is 2 Kings 11:21 through 12:21, and then Jeremiah 33:25 and 26, and 34:8. And then the Gospels, I don't know the history on the Gospels, actually, so I'll have to look into that and figure out how the Gospels got added. Probably that, most of the Gospels are actual not translations, but it's the Old Testament being, it's the Torah being quoted. So, and that this week is Matthew 15:12 through 20, Mark 7:14 through 23, Acts 23:1 through 11, Hebrews 9:15 through 22, and 10:28 through 39. And I will not get through all of that because we only have an hour. And so we'll get as far as we can. And then I'll have it in the comments or in the description so you can actually read it yourself, whatever we don't read. And I recommend that you do read this for yourself, but this is kind of, I can read it to you. And for some people, that's easier in this season of their life. And I get it. So, okay, so I start with A Year Through Torah. It's a week-by-week journey for Christians, and it basically gives us a backdrop of what we are going to be reading. It kind of gives us a little bit of insight. And so it says here that last week's Torah portion, Yitro, which I'm really disappointed I didn't get a chance to do it because I love that Torah portion, talks about Moses's father-in-law. But so Yitro explained that exactly 7 weeks after the Exodus from Egypt, Moses and the Israelites at the foot of Mount Sinai to enter into covenant with YHWH, as they had previously agreed, because he gave them the 10 words and they said, well, we hear and we will obey. So they agreed to come into covenant with him. And it says, in a dramatic display of thunder, lightning, billowing smoke and fire, YHWH then descended upon the mountain and recited it was before he gave the 10 commandments. So it was basically just, since I didn't do a thing on, and I'm sorry for my dog barking. So he descends upon the mountain to recite the 10 commandments to the people. So this is before he, said it to Moses. He was reciting it to the people. Upon hearing the law's moral requirements, however, the people shrank back in fear and begged Moses to be their mediator before YHWH. The people then stood far off while Moses alone drew near to the darkness to receive the Torah from Adonai. And how sad, and we need to pay attention to that, that they didn't want direct one-on-one contact because they were afraid. They let fear keep them from that one-on-one relationship with him and wanted a go-between, a mediator. So it says, Parsha Mishpatim opens with the Lord saying to Moses, now these are the rules that you shall set before them. Exodus 21:1. A well-known Jewish midrash says, so midrash, from what I understand, a midrash is kind of where the guys and priests and scholars and scribes and whatever, they get together and they go over the Torah portion and they discuss it, kind of like we women do in our weekly call, our Bible study call that goes, Torah portion calls, and we discuss what Yahuwah, has shown us. And from what I understand, the midrash, that's what they do. They just kind of discuss what they think it means and what the Father has shown them. So a well-known Jewish midrash says that the Lord initially offered the Torah to each of the 70 nations. So not just Israel, but the 70 nations that came out of Babylon. But none accepted it without first asking what it was about. After hearing the various commandments, each nation had some excuse or another for not accepting it. For example, God ordered Torah to the Ishmaelites, so Ishmael and his descendants, but they declined the offer because of its prohibition of theft, since their trading practices required it. Interesting. God finally turned to the nation of Israel, who said, Kol Ashar Dibar Adonai Naash. Don't know how well I said that, but all that the Lord says we will do. So note something remarkable here. Unlike the other nations, Israel chose Torah before knowing its contexts. Exodus 19:8. In fact, even after Moses had explained the extent of Torah's demands, all Israel said, and I won't try to repeat that in Hebrew because I'll butcher it, all that the Lord says we will do and obey. Do and obey. Exodus 24:7. The heart of the Jew unquestionably says yes to the Lord, like a child who trusts his father. May we also live. So, and isn't that's the goal, is to live like a child, but a child who trusts his father. That's my goal, is to live like a child who trusts my father. And let me tell you, he's been asking some big things and I've been trusting him, and he has taught me that when you walk in his ways, you will walk in favor. It's not that life won't be tough, not that life won't be challenging, not like you won't go through some hard stuff. Like us just being sick a few weeks ago, it was hard and we were sick. But he's still good and he's still sovereign and he's still over all. So, for us, we love living like children who trust their father, and he comes through every time. He is an amazing provider. So the word Mishpatim means rules or ordinances. It is derived from the Hebrew word shafat, to judge. This parsha lists over 11.5% of all the commandments found in the entire Torah, 53 of 613. These Mishpatim include a wide range of civil laws, criminal laws, ritual laws, financial laws, and family laws. These civil laws are sometimes referred to as bien Adam la shavaro, between the man and his fellow man. So do unto others, or, the love others as yourself. For instance, slavery was socially tolerated, but it was to be practiced in a humane and orderly manner. If a Jewish male was sold into slavery as restitution for a theft, he must be freed after no more than 6 years of servitude. If he got married during the servitude, his master was required to support his wife and children. On the other hand, if the master gave the slave a wife during his servitude, she and the children would remain with the master after he was freed, unless the man decided to remain with them, in which case he would make a solemn declaration before the law court, house of judgment, and have his ear bored with an awl to indicate that he is now part of the master's clan. Wow. If a Jewish girl was sold into slavery by her father, she is not automatically freed after 6 years of servitude, but must be redeemed from her master. The sages state that a man could sell his daughter until she reached 12 years of age, but only if it was for her benefit, with the intent that she was to be married to her master or the master's son. If she displeased her master, she could not be resold to a foreigner, but must be redeemed, purchased back. Our Redeemer, Yeshua, purchased back by her own relatives, the kinsman Redeemer. If she was married to the master or his son, then she was to be treated as a freeborn Jewish woman with all of the same rights and privileges. If a master struck and killed his non-Jewish slave, he was to be punished by the law court. However, if the slave died several days after the beating, he was not found liable because it is assumed that he did not intend to actually kill the slave. If the beating permanently injured the slave, however, he was to be set free. Some laws carry the death penalty. These include premeditated murder, cursing one's parents, that gets the death penalty. Kidnapping, I could be down for that. Practicing witchcraft, engaging in bestiality, and offering sacrifice to idols. According to various Jewish sages, the famous statement, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, actually refers to the administration of equitable justice in redress of damages and not corporal punishment. Other laws and ordinances concern case of personal injury, the treatment of strangers, widows, and orphans, laws about loans, which must be interest-free between Jews, and various other matters, including the dedication of the firstborn son. And the firstborn sons were all supposed to, the firstborn actually were all supposed to be priests. That was how the Father intended it, until something that's coming up here soon. So, the dedicating the firstborn to be the priest of the Most High. To the Lord, the prohibition of bearing false witness in court, the restriction against eating the meat of an animal torn by beasts in the field, the law of Shemitah, the 7th year during which the land was to lie fallow, the complete abstinence from work on Shabbat, the 3 pilgrimage festivals, Passover, Pentecost, and Tabernacles, the prohibition of boiling a kid in its mother's milk, from which all sorts of restrictions were derived in later rabbinical formulations of kosher law, though see Genesis 18:18 and so on. So after giving these various mitzvahs, the Lord promised Moses that his angel would guard and protect the Israelites until they arrived in the land of Canaan, but on the condition that the people obey his voice. It's this, that, and then if you do, then I will. This angel would drive out the enemies of Israel and assure their victory in the promised land. As Messianic believers, we hold that this angel was none other than Yeshua, the Mashiach, in his pre-incarnate state. I can't say, so I can't speak to that. So I'm going to go ahead and get started because we're getting past time. There's a few other things here. This is real quick. A note about oral and written law. So it's interesting because a lot of people don't want to follow the laws, in the Old Testament, the laws of Moses. We're not under the law. And from what I'm understanding is we were released from the additional laws that the rabbis and the sages and everything Pharisees added, that were not in the original laws. And we don't have to follow all 613 because they don't all apply to us. I'm not a man. I can be a farmer. But I'm not a priest. So there's certain ones that don't apply to me. So, but here, as mentioned in the introduction to this book, in rabbinic Jewish thinking, there are actually 2 Torahs, written and oral. Written refers to the 5 books of Moses and usually taking the form of a Torah scroll or a book from the first 5 books of Moses. Oral Torah refers to the word of mouth tradition of learning something. The idea is that God first spoke words to Moses and then Moses responded. That is before the actual writing down of the word of God. There is was this dialogue in rabbinic tradition, oral Torah is considered more vital than the written Torah. But that can be perverted and changed too. The thing is that I mean, I believe that many of the laws were given to Adam and Eve, and then they were passed on to Seth, and then to to Noah. Noah knew clean animals from unclean animals. Abraham offered a sacrifice. There were things that they innately knew before the law was written. So, all right, we are going to start. It is Exodus 21:1 through 24:18. These are the right rulings which you are to set before them. When you buy a Hebrew servant, he serves 6 years, and in the 7th year he goes free for naught. If he comes in by himself, he goes out by himself. If he comes in married, then his wife shall go out with him. If his master has given him a wife, and she has borne him sons or daughters, the wife and her children are her master's, and he goes out by himself. And if the servant truly says, I love my master, my wife, and my children, let me not go out free, then his master shall bring him before Elohim, and shall bring him to the door or to the doorpost of his master shall pierce his ear with an awl, and he shall serve him forever. And when a man sells his daughter to a female servant, she does not go out as the male servants do. If she is displeasing in the eyes of her master who has engaged her to himself, then he shall let her be ransomed. He shall have no authority to sell her to a foreign people because of him deceiving her. And if he has engaged her to his son, he is to do to her as is right of daughters, so to treat her as an actual daughter. If he takes another wife, her food, her covering, and her marriage rights are not to be diminished. And if he does not do these 3 for her, then she shall go out for naught without silver. He who strikes a man so that he dies shall certainly be put to death. But if he did not if he did not lie in wait, but Elohim delivered him into his hand, then I shall appoint for you a place where he is to flee. So that'll be the cities of refuge to come. But when a man acts presumptuously against his neighbor to kill him by treachery, you are to take him even from my slaughter place to die. And he who strikes his father or mother shall certainly be put to death. And he who kidnaps a man and sells him, or if he is found in his hand, shall certainly be put to death. And he who curses his father and his mother shall certainly be put to death. So we need to be really careful. And I've been guilty, this one I've had to repent of. I'm sure we all do. And when men strive together and one strikes another with a stone or with his fist, and he does not die, but is confined to his bed, if he rises again and walks about outside with his staff, then he who struck him shall be innocent. He only pays for lost time and that's cool, pays for his lost time, wages probably, and sees to it that he is completely healed. So he has to take care of him. It makes perfect sense. And when a man strikes his male or female servant with a rod so that he dies under his hand, he shall certainly be avenged. But if he remains alive a day or 2, he is not avenged, for he is his property. That's pretty. Wow. And when men strive, and they shall smite a pregnant woman and her children, right here, children are alive in utero. And when men strive and shall smite a pregnant woman and her children come out, yet there is no injury, he shall certainly be punished accordingly as the woman's husband lays upon him, and he shall give through the judges. But if there is injury, then you shall give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, lash for lash. Wouldn't that cut down a lot on crime and personal injury if you knew that you were going to have it happen back to you, And when a man strikes the eye of his male or female servant and destroys it, he is to let him go free for the sake of his eye. If he knocks out a tooth of his male or female servant, he is to let him go free for the sake of his tooth. And when an ox gores a man or a woman to death, then the ox shall certainly be stoned, and its flesh is not eaten, and the owner of the ox is innocent. However, if the ox was previously in the habit of goring, and its owner has been warned, he has not been kept confined. So basically, be responsible for your own animal. So that it has killed a man or a woman, the ox is stoned, and its owner is also put to death. If a sin covering is laid upon him, then he shall give the ransom of his life, whatever is laid on him. I want to have a question. If a sin covering is laid upon him, then he shall give the ransom of his life, whatever is laid on him. Whether it has, the ox, whether it has gored his son or gored a daughter, according to the right ruling, it is done to him. If the ox gored a male or female servant, he is to give to their master 30 shekels of silver, and the ox is stoned. And when the man opens a pit, or if a man digs a pit and does not cover it, and an ox or a donkey falls in it, the owner of the pit is to repay. He is to give silver to the owner of the dead, and the dead beast is his. So he gives him money, and he gets the beast. When an ox of a man smites the ox of a neighbor and it dies, then they shall sell the live ox and divide the silver from it, and also divide the dead ox. Or if it was known that the ox was previously in the habit of goring and its owner didn't keep it confined, he shall certainly repay ox for ox, while the dead beast is his. I mean, this is all logical, ways of governing and managing life, in community. When a man steals an ox or a sheep and shall slaughter it or sell it, he repays 5 cattle for an ox and 4 sheep for a sheep. If the thief is found breaking in and he is struck so that he dies, there is no guilt for his bloodshed. If the sun is risen on him, there is guilt for his bloodshed. He shall certainly repay. If he has not the means, then he shall be sold for his theft. If the theft is indeed found alive in his hand, whether it is an ox or a donkey or a sheep, he repays double. And when a man lets a field or vineyard be grazed bare and lets loose his livestock, and it feeds in another man's field, he repays from the best of his own field and the best of his own vineyard. These are just really practical, wonderful ways to live in community, loving others as yourself. When the fire breaks out and spreads to thorn bushes, so the stacked grain or standing grain or the field is consumed, he who kindled the fire shall certainly repay. And when a man gives silver or goods to his neighbor to guard, and it is stolen out of the man's house, if the thief is found, he repays double. If the thief is not found, then the master of the house shall be brought before Elohim to see whether he has put his hand into his neighbor's goods. For every matter of transgression, for ox and for donkey, for sheep, for garments, or for whatever is lost, which another claims to be his, let the matter of them both come before Elohim. And whomever Elohim declares wrong repays double to his neighbor. It'd be awesome to live like this. When a man gives to his neighbor a donkey or an ox or a sheep or any beast to watch over, and it dies or is injured, or is driven away while no one is looking, let an oath of Yahuwah be between them, both that he has not put his hand into his neighbor's goods, and the owner of it shall accept that, and he does not repay. But if it is indeed stolen from him, he repays to its owner. If it is torn to pieces, then let him bring it for evidence. He does not repay for what was torn. And when a man borrows from his neighbor, and it is injured or dies while the owner is not present, he shall certainly repay. But if its owner was with it, he does not repay. If it was hired, he is enlisted to the hire. And when a man entices a maiden who is, I remember last year reading these and and when a man entices a maiden who is not engaged and lies with her, he shall certainly pay the bride price for her to be his wife. If her father absolutely refuses to give her to him, He pays according to the bride price of maidens. Do not allow a practicer of witchcraft to live. I mean, that is like harsh, but anyone lying with a beast shall certainly be put to death. He who slaughters to an Elohim except YHWH only is put under a ban. Do not tread down a sojourner or oppress him, for you were sojourners in the land of Mitzrayim. Do not afflict any widow or fatherless child. If you do afflict them at all, if they cry out to me at all, I shall certainly hear their cry. 24:18. I'm sure I've got it. Yeah. And my wrath shall burn, and I shall kill you with the sword. Your wives shall be widows and your children fatherless. If you do lend silver to any of my people, the poor among you, you are not to be like one that lends on interest to him. Do not lay interest on him. If you take your neighbor's garment as a pledge at all, you are to return it to him before the sun goes down. For that is the only covering, and it is his garment for his skin. What does he sleep in? And it shall be that when he cries to me, I shall hear, and I show favor. Right there. I show favor. I've just been going through, and I just feel like I'm just walking in such favor. It just, every morning I wake up, and all day long, I'm just kind of in awe that how much I walk in favor. It's interesting to see it right here. For I show favor. Do not revile an Elohim, nor curse a ruler of your people. This one really, because like our administration, well, our government, our politicians, it's hard not to revile and curse them. But here it says, do not revile an Elohim. Here is God, or curse a ruler to your people. Do not delay giving your harvest and your vintage. Give me the firstborn of your sons. Firstborns are supposed to be dedicated as priests. Likewise, you are to do with your oxen, with your sheep. It is to be with its mother 7 days, and on the 8th day you give it to me. So stays with its mom 7 days, and then on the 8th day it can be offered up as a sacrifice. And you are set apart men to me, and you do not eat any meat which is torn to pieces in a field. You throw it to the dogs. 23, do not bring a false report. We don't realize how important, these things, because what happens, you tell a little slight manipulation of the truth, and all of a sudden it's a wildfire. People get, watch what you say. Do not bring a false report. Do not put your hand with the wrong to be a malicious witness. Do not follow a crowd to do evil, nor bear witness in a strife, so as to turn aside after many, to turn aside what is right. And do not favor a poor man in his strife. Do not favor a poor man in his strife. When you meet your enemy's ox or his donkey going astray, you shall certainly return it to him. So if you see your neighbor's animal, return it to him. When you see the donkey of him who hates you living under its burden, you shall refrain from leaving it to him. You shall certainly help him. Do not turn aside the right ruling of your poor in his strife. Keep yourself far from a false matter, and do not kill the innocent and the righteous. For I do not declare the wrong right, and do not take a bribe, for a bribe blinds the seeing one and twists the words of the righteous. And do not oppress a sojourner, as you yourself know the heart of a sojourner, because you were sojourners in the land of Mitzrayim. And I mean, honestly, I feel like we are sojourners right now in America. We are his, and we are Israel, and we are having to live in a foreign country, in a foreign land, with foreign practices and things, and continue to stay focused on living as Israel for him. So let's see, do not, okay. And for 6 years, you are to sow your land and shall gather its increase. But the 7th year, you are to let it rest and shall leave it. And the poor of your people shall eat. And what they leave, the beasts of the field eat. Do the same with your vineyard and with your olive yard. This is so beautiful. 6 days you are to do your work. And on the 7th day, you rest in order that your dog, in order that your ox and your donkey might rest, and the son of your female servant and the sojourner be refreshed. And boy, let me tell you, we've had to, not had to, we chose to help move our children on the Sabbath. And we knew, we made a conscious choice. We didn't buy or sell, we didn't cause anyone else to work for us, but we chose to go ahead and work on the Sabbath. And boy, it really, both Rusty and I, it really showed us, it's like, our Sabbath is really sacred and important, because when we work on our Sabbath, we're tired the rest of the week. We don't get that refreshing and that rejuvenation that the Sabbath is for. And we're just dry and empty and tired. And so our Sabbath is super important. So 6 days you do your work, and on the 7th day you rest, in order that your ox and your donkey might rest, and your female servant and your sojourner. Okay, and in all that I have said to you, take heed and make no mention of the name of any other mighty ones. That's really interesting here. Don't mention any other God's names. Let it not be heard from your mouth. So I know we had a conversation last year where, there are certain other God's names in these books, and, as we're telling the story, we say their names. 3 times in a year, you are to celebrate a festival to me. Love his festivals. Guard the festival of matzot, of matzah, the unleavened bread, festival of unbreaded. It says, guard it. Guard the festival of matzot. 7 days you eat unleavened bread, as I commanded you, at the time appointed in the new moon of Abib, which is a couple months from now coming up. I'm super excited. For in it you came out of Mitzrayim, and do not appear before me empty-handed. And the festival of the harvest, the first fruits of your labors, which you have sown in the field, and the festival of ingathering. Just love each year celebrating these. It's so exciting to learn more and celebrate them, guard them. 3 of the festival of harvest, first fruits, your laborers sown in the field, festival of ingathering at the outgoing of the year, so the fall feasts. The festival is Yom Teruah, the feast of Booths, Feast of Tabernacles. I think Sukkot. No, I think my brain's not. Let's see. When you have gathered in the fruit of your labors from the field, 3 times a year, all your males are to appear before the master YHWH. Do not slaughter the blood of my slaughtering with leavened bread, and the fat of my festival shall not remain until morning. Bring the first of the first fruits of your land into the house of YHWH, your Elohim. Do not cook a goat in its mother's milk. See, I am sending a messenger before you to guard you in the way and bring you into the place which I have prepared. That's kind of prophetic there. Be on guard before me and obey. Be on guard before him and obey his voice. So he's talking about Yeshua. Do not rebel against him, and he is not going to pardon your transgression, for my name is in him. But if you diligently obey his voice and shall do all that I speak, then I shall be an enemy to your enemies and a distresser to those who distress you. For my messengers shall go before you and shall bring you into the Amorites. So he's actually talking about Moses here, but it's prophetic of Yeshua. For my messengers shall go before you and shall bring you into the Amorites and the Hittites and the Perizzites and the Canaanites and the Havites and the Jebusites, and I shall cut them off. Do not bow down to their mighty ones, nor serve them, nor do according to their works. but without fail overthrow them, and without fail break down their pillars. See, that's something in America we're not doing. People in America are bowing down to their gods and serving them, and need to pray that our eyes are opened and that we cast down our idols. And you shall serve Yahweh, your Elohim, and he shall bless your bread and your water, and I shall remove sickness from your midst. That's a big one there. I shall remove sickness from your midst. None shall miscarry or be barren in your land, and I shall fill the number of your days. I shall send my fear before you and cause confusion among all the people to whom you come, and make all your enemies turn their backs to you. And I shall send hornets before you, which shall drive out the Hivite, the Canaanite, and the Hittite from before you. So he's promised to do all the work. I shall drive them out from before you in 1 year. We know this doesn't happen, but lest the land become a waste and the beasts of the field become too numerous for you. Little by little. Oh, actually it does. He's talking about as you go through, we're going to take care of these, and he's going to do it little by little, moving, little by little, village by village, okay. I shall drive them out from before you until you have increased and you inherit the land. And I shall set your border from the Sea of Reeds to the Sea of the Philistines, and from the wilderness to the river. For I shall give the inhabitants of the land into your hand, and you shall drive them out out before you. Do not make a covenant with them, nor with their mighty ones. Let them not dwell in your land, lest they make you sin against me when you serve their mighty ones, when it becomes a snare to you. And a lot of what's going on over there right now is because of this. He told them, do not make covenants with them. Do not. And they allowed people to live and made covenants with them that is, plaguing them to this day. And Moshe said, come up to Yahweh, you and Aaron, and to Moshe he said, come up to Yahweh, you and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, and you shall bow yourselves from a distance. But Moshe shall draw near to Yahweh by himself, and let them not draw near, nor let the people go up with them. And Moshe came and related to the people all the words that Yahweh and all the right rulings, and all the people answered with one voice. They were ahad. They were together in one voice, and they said, all the words which Yahweh has spoken, we shall do. They entered into covenant right there, basically the wedding. They said, I do. This is what I expect. And they said, we do. And Moshe wrote down all the words of Yahweh, and rose up early in the morning and built a slaughter place at the foot of the mountain, and 12 standing columns for the 12 tribes of Israel. And he sent young men of the children of Israel, and they offered ascending offerings and slaughterings of peace offerings to Yahweh of bulls. And Moshe took half of the blood and put it in the basins, and half of the blood he sprinkled on the slaughter place. And he took the book of the covenant and read in the hearing of the people, and they said, all that Yahweh has spoken, we shall do and obey. And Moshe took the blood and sprinkled it on the people and said, see the blood of the covenant which Yahweh has made with you concerning all these words. And Moshe went up, also Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel. And they saw the Elohim of Israel, and under his feet like a paved work of sapphire stone, and like the heavens for brightness. Yet he did not stretch out his hand against the chiefs of the children of Israel. And they saw Elohim, and they ate and they drank. Wow. And Yahweh said to Moshe, come up to me on the mountain and be there, while I give you the tablets of stone and the Torah, the instructions and the commands which I have written to teach them. And Moshe arose with his assistant Joshua, and Moshe went up to the mountain of Elohim, and he said to the elders, wait here for us until we come back to you. And see, Aaron and Hur are with you. Whoever has matters, let him go to them. And Moshe went up to the mountain, and a cloud covered the mountain, and the esteem of Yahweh dwelt on Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it for 6 days. And on the seventh day, he called to Moshe out of the midst of the cloud. And the appearance of the esteem of Yahweh was like a consuming fire on top of a mountain before the eyes of the children of Israel. And Moshe went into the midst of the cloud and went up into the mountain. And it came to be that Moshe was on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. All right, where are we at? Okay, we have enough time for the Haftorah and possibly some, we'll see, the Haftorah and possibly some of the, and we've got a couple Haftorahs, so. Okay, this one is 2 Kings 11 through 20, 11, 21 through 12, 21. Jehoash was 7 years old when he began to reign. Jehoash began to reign in the 7th year of Jehu, and he reigned 40 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Tishbaya of Beersheba. And Jehoash did what was right in the eyes of Yahweh all the days in which Jehoiada the priest instructed him. However, the high places were not taken away. The people still slaughtered and burned incense on the high places. And Jehoash said to the priests, all the silver of the set-apart gifts that are brought into the house of Yahweh, the silver coming over each man's assessment silver, all the silver that a man purposes in his heart to bring into the house of Yahweh, let the priest take for themselves, each from his friend, and let them strengthen the breaches of the house wherever there is a breach. And it came to be by the 23rd year of the sovereign of Jehoash that the priests had not strengthened the breaches of the house. The sovereign Jehoash called Jehoiada, the priest, and the other priests, and said to them, why have you not strengthened the breaches of the house? And now do not take any more silver from your friends, but give it to the breaches of the house. And the priests agreed that they would neither receive any more silver from the people, nor strengthen the breaches of the house. And Jehoiada, the priest, took a chest and bore a hole in its lid and set it beside the slaughter place on the right side of one, as one comes into the house of Yahweh. And the priests who guarded the door put there all the silver that was brought into the house of Yahweh. And it came to be, whenever they saw there was much silver in the chest, that the sovereign scribes and the high priest came up and put it in bags and counted the silver that was found in the house of Yahweh. And that's Yahweh. People call him Yahuwah. Yod-He-Vav-He YHWH, Yahweh. So, and give the silver weighed out into the hands of those who did the work, who had the oversight of the house of Yahweh. And they paid it out to the carpenters and the builders who worked on the house of Yahweh, and to the stonemasons and the stonecutters for buying timber and hewn stone to strengthen the breach of the house of Yahweh, for all that was paid out to strengthen the house. However, there were not made for the house of Yahweh basins of silver, snuffers, sprinkling bowls, trumpets, any objects of gold or objects of silver from the silver that was brought into the house of Yahweh. For they gave that to the workmen, and they strengthened the house of Yahweh with it. And they did not reckon with the men into whose hand they gave the silver to be paid to the workmen, for they acted trustworthily. The silver from the trespass offerings and the silver from the sin offerings was not brought into the house of Yahweh. It belonged to the priests. And Hazael, sovereign of Aram, went up and fought against Gath and captured it. And Hazael set his face to go up to Jerusalem. And Jehoash, sovereign of Yehuda, took all the set-apart gifts from his father Jehoshaphat and Jehoram and Ahaziahu, sovereigns of Yehuda, had set apart, and his own set-apart gifts, and all the gold found in the treasuries of the house of Yehoah and in the sovereign's house, and sent them to Hazael, sovereign of Aram. Then he went away from Jerusalem. And the rest of the acts of Joash and all that he did, are they not written in the book? See, I want to find these books. Are they not written in the book of the annuals of the sovereigns of Yehuda? Would love to find that book. And his servants rose up and made a conspiracy and smote Joash in the house of Milo, which goes down to Silla. For Yozakar, son of Shimath, and Yehozabad, son of Shomer, his servant, struck him, so he died, and they buried him with his father in the city of David, as Ashmahath, his son, reigned in his place. Okay, and the next is Kings 12. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Jeremiah 33, 25 and 26, and I'm getting to the end here. So this is just a couple ones here. Thus said Yahweh, if my covenant is not with day and night, and if I have not appointed the laws of the heavens and earth, then I would also reject the descendants of Jacob, and David, my servant, so that I should not take on his descendants to be rulers over the descendants of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Jacob. For I shall turn back their captivity and have compassion on them. I can go ahead and do the first half Torah. I can find it right here. Or of the Gospels, the Brit Hadashah. Matthew, I'm sorry, also 34:8. 34:8. Period. Just that. So the word which came to Jeremiah from Yahweh after sovereign, I can't even, Tsidquyahhu had made a covenant with all the people who were at Jerusalem to proclaim release to them. That was okay. And then Matthew 15:12-20. And Yeshua went out from there, Jesus went out from there and withdrew to the parts of Sar and Sidon. And see, a woman of Canaan came from those borders and cried out to him, saying, have compassion on me, O Master, son of David. My daughter is badly demon possessed. But he did not answer her a word. And his taught ones came and asked him, saying, send her away, because she cries after us. And he answering said, I was not sent except, this is so important here. I was not sent except to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. A lot in the Christian church that don't understand that. He was sent for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. That's why Yeshua came. But she came and was bowing to him and saying, Master, help me. And he answered, saying, it is not good to take the children's bread and throw it to the little dogs. But she said, yes, Master, for even the little dogs eat crumbs which fall from their master's table. And Yeshua answering said to her, O woman, your belief is great. Let it be as you, let it to be to you as you desire. And her daughter was healed from that hour. Oh, I went past. Wait a minute. 15. I'm sorry. I read a totally different part, so I'll read this. This is Matthew 15:12-20. I read 21 on. So, then his taught ones came to him and said, do you not know that the Pharisees stumbled when they heard this word? But he answering said, every plant which my heavenly Father has not planted shall be uprooted. Leave them alone. They are blind leaders of the blind. And if the blind leads the blind, both shall fall into a ditch. And Kepha, who is Peter, answered and said to him, explain this parable to us. And Yeshua said, are you so also still without understanding? Do you not understand that whatever enters into the mouth goes into the stomach and is cast out in the sewer? But what comes out of the mouth comes from the heart, and these defile a man. For out of the heart comes forth wicked reasonings, murders, adultery, whorings, thefts, false witnesses, slanderers. These defile a man. but to eat with unwashed hands does not defile a man. You know, and all these things, would they say, oh, just follow your heart and trust your heart? No. For out of the heart come forth wicked reasoning, murders, adulteries, whorings, thefts, false witnesses, and slanderers. We don't want to follow our heart. We want to follow our King. So, all right. Do I have time? I maybe do. Yes. Mark 14, or Mark 7, 14 to 23. So, and sovereign Herodes heard, for his name had become well known, and he said, Yohanan the Immerser, that's John the Baptist, has been raised from the dead, and because of this, these powers are at work in him. Others said he is Elijah, and others said he's a prophet, like one of the prophets. But when Herodes heard, he said, this one is Yohanan, whom I beheaded. He has been raised from the dead. For Herodes himself had sent and seized Yohanan and bound him in prison because of Herodias, his brother Philip's wife, because he had married her. For Yohanan had said to Herodes, it is not right for you to have your brother's wife. So Herodias, the wife, held a grudge against him and wished to kill him, but was unable. For Herod feared Yohanan, John the Baptist, knowing that he was a righteous and set apart man, and he protected him. And when he heard him, he was much perplexed, yet heard him gladly. And a suitable day came when Herod's, on his birthday, gave a feast for his great men and high officers and the chief men of Galilee. And when the daughter of Herodias herself came in and danced and pleased Herodes, 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 Herodes. And those who sat with him, the sovereign said to the girl, ask me whatever you wish, and I shall give it to you. And he swore to her, whatever you ask me, I shall give, up to half of my reign, half of my kingdom. And she went out and said to her mother, what shall I ask? And she said, the head of Yohanan the Immerser, John the Baptist. That was tragic. So, okay, the rest of them you can read yourself. Acts 23, 1 through 11, Hebrews 9, 15 through 22, and 10, 28 through 39. It is an absolute, complete, and utter blessing to be able to be back on track. I wish it was the right day of the week, but y'all willing, next week I'll do it on Monday. My life is slowing down some, so be blessed. Father God, thank you so much for helping us as we've gone through this, revealing your truth, revealing how important your Torah is to our everyday life today, where we are right now. Your word is our bread, our daily bread. It sustains us. It keeps us going. And thank you so much for giving us a heart and passion and desire to want to live in covenant with you and to seek after you and to knock and to continue to follow you and seek out your mysteries. Be blessed in our efforts. We thank you for all that you do. Amen. All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm sorry if you came on and put anything in the chat. I saw some people pop on here and there, but I am not able currently, the way I do this, to read the chats. I'm hoping to get that fixed here eventually, but I will go and check the chats after I sign off. And this will be up in a short while. I have to do the graphic for it and the description, and then it will be up. So be blessed. Thank you so much for reading along with me. And y'all willing, we'll see you next week. Bye.